Thanks, Whit. Good morning. I'd like to call the Skagit Transit Board of Directors meeting for April 19, 2023 to order. The time is now 11 o'clock. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. I am Jill Boudreau, Mayor of Mount Vernon, and so I'll ask Whitney to call the roll.
Commissioner Browning, Commissioner Janicki, Commissioner Wiesen,
Here.
Mayor Boudreau,
Here.
Mayor Johnson, here, Mayor Miller,
Here.
Mayor Sexton,
Here.
Councilperson Aslett, Councilperson Holst. Are we still signed in? Okay,
we are.
okay, there it goes. Our CAC Chair Judy Jones.
Here.
And our Labor Representative Colleen Kennedy. And that's everyone.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you to those of us joining us online. If you don't mind making sure that you're on mute, and then unless you're called upon to speak, that would be great. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, which is public comment. If there's any public comment here in the room, I'll ask that first. Seeing none, is there any public comment for those of us joining online? If you don't mind just unmuting, introducing yourself and comments about 3 minutes or so. Any public comment online? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move along. Consent agenda action items. We have items A and B. This is the approval of the March meeting minutes and the approves of claims and payroll. Seeking pleasure of the board.
I would move to approve the consent agenda items, both A and B. Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Wiesen, second by Mayor Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. I would like for the board, we have our full discussion action items, but then we also have informational items. So what I'd like to do is move up the MOA2 project overview presentation between items B and C under the action. I think it would just make more sense for information prior to asking the board to take action on that particular topic. So any objections from the board to moving that around? Okay, and then remind me when we get there, because you know how I go fast. Okay, under full discussion action items, item 6A. This is the monthly budget update report for March. So I'm going to call on Chris Stamey to present the report.
Good morning, everyone. Chris Stamey. I have the monthly budget update for March. Starting with sales tax revenue, I've started a research project into sales tax to give you a better idea of what industry provides what percentage of sales tax to the Skagit PTBA. I've been working with the Department of Revenue on that, and I hope to have that information to you and board next month. Their report queries don't have information for the Skagit PTBA populated for the year that I need. So the most current year. But so for current sales tax for March, we collected $1,228,784. That's it's only $1,300 more than last year at this time. So that's an indicator that our sales tax revenue is leveling off and it's becoming flat. Our grant revenue, so we will keep a close eye on that. Our grant revenue, we received federal capital grant revenue of $33,017 in the month. State capital grant revenue of $40,181 and state operating grant revenue of $163,404. So total, we collected $236,000 in grant revenue in the month. Our fair revenues are up about 5% for March over 2022's amounts. It's about $3,000. Is that 5%? It's $59,854 in total. Our expenses worth noting, our capital expenses. So our MOA2 professional services and leased equipment for the month ran $12,238. There are a couple of bills left to pay for March that have not come through yet due to contracts we need to renew. We purchased a tire changer at $22,500. These are capital items that were approved in the 23 budget, to note that. $6,048 parking lot striper. And we have two software related expenses, $28,257 for the driver's kiosks at the Marches Point and Cedar Woolley Park and Ride locations, and $14,837 for software maintenance subscriptions for paratransit. It's our TripSpark software. Our cash balance at the end of March was $4,485,094. Our reserves at the end of March totaled $21,435,048. That's an increase from the prior year of $4.5 million or 27% from the $16,940,000 that we had in March of 2020. I've omitted the MOA2 phase 1 update in the budget update because we have a presentation coming up today. So with that, staff recommends the board approve the monthly budget update pending any questions you may have.
Driver kiosks, what services are on that or how? I don't remember hearing about that.
So these, these are informational kiosks that where the public can interact. We have two set up right now, one at Chuckanut and one at Skagit Station. They have an interactive panel on them and it automatically displays when buses will be pulling in at those locations. We wanted to do these two park and ride locations because there is no customer service available at either of these locations.
Yeah, I would have, that public kiosk is what I would have written instead of a driver. I just didn't understand how the driver was involved, but thank you.
Any other questions for Chris? All right, Chris, thank you for proactively looking at things that the board is interested in. So appreciate that. And then if any board members have things they would like Chris to prepare, just let us know. So, all right. Looking at a board approval of the monthly budget report.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Was that Peter? Okay. Oh, Matt, sorry. Motion by Matt Miller and second by Lisa Janicki. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6B. This is the approval of resolution 2023-02, authorizing the addition of 2 cash drawers. Chris.
So I have for your consideration, resolution 23-02, addition of 2 additional cash drawers. And this is at Skagit Station. The location is Skagit Station. On June 17th, 2009, the board approved resolution 2009-06, which authorized Skagit Transit to maintain 3 cash drawers, 1 for Skagit Station, 1 for the maintenance operations and administration reception desk, and a backup till used to make change with a total balance of $230. On January 19th of 2011, the board approved resolution 2011-01, which increased the station till by $100 and increased the total change fund balance to $330. In an effort to increase availability to the public and create efficiencies in daily duties, staff is requesting to add 2 $200 tills for Skagit Station. Staff has installed a safe to secure the daily till each night, allowing the Skagit Station service coordinator to report directly to the station each morning without needing to report to the main MOA office first. The additional tills will allow staff to use a fresh till each day and eliminate limitations due to a lack of change. I need to communicate to the board that this configuration has been blessed by our state audit team in Bellingham. I ran that by them to ensure that they were okay with the amount we had and adding of the additional tills and being secure. Current office hours at Skagit Station are Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4 o'clock, closed 11:30 to 12:30 for lunch. The adjusted hours will be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:15 p.m., closed 11:30 to 12:30 for lunch. This change will increase availability by 45 minutes each day without affecting staff hours. The service coordinator will return the deposits and daily work for the main office twice weekly, which will allow for deposits to be submitted to the bank on the existing schedule. Staff recommends the budget impact is none. The total change fund balance would be $730. Staff recommends the board approve resolution 23-02 to authorize the addition of 2 cash drawers in the amount of $400, pending any questions you may have.
Questions for Chris on this proposal? Seems logical and efficient to me. So, all right, seeing none, what is the pleasure of the board? All right, as present, got it. All right, motion by Commissioner Janicki, second by Commissioner Browning. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any, now I just lost my train of thought. Any opposed? Thank you. Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Now we're going to go up into our information items, which is item 7D. This is the MOA2 project overview presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Crystal for this.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Today, I want to present an overview of the Maintenance, Operations, and Administration Project, also known as MOA2. The purpose of this presentation is to familiarize our newer board members with how the project started and where we are today. The reason we began looking for a new facility is because we were experiencing capacity constraints with continued growth to our agency, our location being on the floodplain, and the fact that our current building is on leased land. I think she wants her building back, though. That's what I've heard. This project started way back in 2014 when Skagit Transit initiated a feasibility study to find a new location. As a result, we identified 6 locations throughout Skagit Valley, including our existing facility, and it was determined that 5 had fatal flaws that would prevent us from building on those sites. The study cost $100,000 and was completed using federal funds. At the completion of the study, it was determined that the property on Bay Ridge Drive would suit us best, partially because there was an existing building on that land. Boy, were we mistaken, with potential for remodeling to meet our needs. In 2015, we purchased the land and existing building for $5.1 million. In 2016, we purchased the adjacent 3 acres for $928,000. And if you see on the slide there, the red is the 7.8 acres and the yellow is the adjacent 3 acres. In 2017, we put out a request for qualifications for the architectural and engineering designs. In 2018, we received the architectural design for the remodel of the existing building, which cost $1.3 million. Due to the funding constraints, it was recommended that the project be split into 3 phases. In 2019, the construction management contract was awarded for $241,000 and was slated to be a 10-month contract with the start date of February 20th, 2020. This ended up being delayed significantly due to COVID. In March of 2020, we put out the first solicitation for the construction of phase 1. This was also canceled due to COVID. In 2021, we resolicited the contract again, and it was awarded in July. Unfortunately, in 2022, we experienced 3 project suspensions due to numerous design defects and supply chain issues. During the project delays, the contractors worked to address design defects, and a resolution was identified in October of 2022. The biggest design defect was issues with the roof, which was estimated at $1.4 million to fix. Other design defects were also identified to include awnings, windows, insulation, water, sewer, etc. These defects were estimated to cost $1.2 million to fix and resulted in a contract extension of 449 days. The roof was finally completed in 2023. The additional structural defects are being addressed between the architect and the contractor. Site prep has continued. We have received an updated project schedule and current cost estimate. Our current project schedule puts us back on track to resume work later this month and complete phase one in April of 2024. Supply chain issues continue to be a factor. For a quick recap on phase one, the project has had 113 requests for information. This simply means that the contractor has asked for formal information from the architect and or project manager related to the project. It has also had 56 change order proposals, 43 of which resulted in construction change directives and 8 change orders. This slide spotlights the project funding for phase one. I'll go over this in detail at the end of the presentation. What is the financial impact of all of this, you might ask? $7.3 million. Not including taxes. The breakdown of that includes the construction contract being awarded at $2.9 million and design changes for an additional $2.9 million. To date, the board has already approved $5.4 million. Of that, 4.2 has already been paid out to our contractors. Our pending contract obligations total $2.7 million. If you subtract the 1.2 million of our approved remaining funds, this leaves a balance of 1.4 million for the construction portion to complete phase one. If you add our pre-negotiated estimate for construction, the construction management of $400,000, this brings us to the $1.2 million to complete phase one, which is what we're going to be asking you for today. This slide shows a summary of all 3 phases to include what we have paid out so far, what we expect to pay for phases 2 and 3, as well as our anticipated funding sources. Again, phase one is estimated at 7.3 million and our funding sources are as follows. 3.3 million in federal funds that we have already received. We're expecting $2.5 million from Move Ahead Washington, and we're expecting to use $1.5 million in local funds. Phase 2 includes the build out of the interior for the admin and operations. It was originally estimated at $10 million. However, due to inflation, we are now estimating 13. Once we receive the revised engineer estimates, we will have a better idea of these figures. Our anticipated funding sources for phase 2 are as follows. 5 million in federal funds, 2.5 million from Move Ahead Washington, and we're expecting to use 5.8 million in local funds. Phase 3 of the project includes the build out of the vehicle maintenance and facilities building. We are estimating this phase at $16 million. To reiterate, once we have the engineer cost estimate, we will have more accurate figures. Our anticipated funding sources for this phase include the following. 2 FTA applications totaling $5 million that have already been submitted. As of right now, no federal or state funds have been awarded. In 2024, multiple state and federal programs will become available for funding requests. As additional grant funds are awarded, the commitment for local funds will be reduced accordingly. That is the end of the presentation. Is there any questions? So that will be an action item that we'll get to here shortly. The 1 point, it's actually broken down into 2, the 1.4 and then the $400,000 for the construction management.
So Crystal ran through that really fast, so I'm sure that there's
I
questions.
did that on purpose.
And also know that staff in the room may not be ones that were there originally, so we'll do our best to answer questions. So Steve.
So I just have a quick comment. That information would have been very helpful to have in our packet. Give us a chance to look at this before taking an action item today, which I'm very comfortable doing. If I'm understanding this correctly, this change order is for $1.6 million plus or
Correct.
minus, in addition to the 1.2 million change order we've already done, right?
Correct.
So that means we have change orders equivalent to 39% of the estimated cost for phase one. The 7.3 million.
It's actually gone more than that because the original estimate came in just under $2.9 million for this project. And we're now
I'm
looking
talking about phase one, the $7.3 million overall cost for phase
correct.
one.
That initially came in at just under 2.9.
Okay. That's worse.
Yes, we know it's,
That's what I thought. I thought my math was off when I did that, actually, to be honest with you. Wow, okay.
Lisa, do you have?
Yeah, but so there is in fairness to that math, and the math is important, but the constructability of the project, given the original design, we didn't catch as an organization, as a board, that it was not constructible. And although it was signed off, and as I understand, that is something that perhaps litigation steps are possible if we don't get resolution from the architect. So the fact, when the comment, Crystal, when you're going through that very quickly and said there were issues with the roof, there really weren't issues with the roof, but because it had been recently replaced, but a new roof was required because there were issues with the energy code insulation proposal that was part of the original $2.9 million project presentation. So it became a significantly different, or it was more than just a change order in a normal kind of thought. It was being redesigned on the fly in order to meet energy code. So it just, yeah, there's no sugarcoating that the original project was supposed to be a lot less money, but you know, what that process was to be able to figure out that as designed. I mean, that's what you rely on an architect to do. The architects and engineers should have figured that out before the contractor was actually on the ground. So that's a large part of that.
and to your point, Commissioner Janicki, we are, in fact, I need to send a letter out today. We are going to be asking the architect to enter into mediation with us to try to recoup some of our costs from this, really the errors and omissions on their part.
And I'll just say we should be cautious to what we say outside of an executive session. But I think, yeah, to everyone's point, yes, an original price was based on a design by a paid architect. And two, not only the roof, but the window issue was also something has had to be resolved through redesign, which is a topic for executive session as well. Other questions, Ron?
Remind me on the energy code when those came in effect. So those changes had to be made. You may remember the energy code changes were done.
I think that they were, if anyone in this room remembers when this project started, please jump in, but I believe that those were in effect when the project started. However, it wasn't identified by the contractor originally. Does that sound right? Okay, we don't know, but we will find out the answer for that. Honestly, I think it was just an error by the architect.
I know at the county, we had a lot of people coming in for building permits right before the deadline. So
Okay,
no
we'll
one
definitely
The
find
energy
out.
code for commercial was before all those residential energy code updates happened. So it had been in place. Architect said that it would meet energy code, but it didn't. So anyway, the code for commercial was already in place.
it wasn't a surprise.
It wasn't a
you.
surprise.
Other questions just on the information, and we'll absolutely have the slides sent out today so that the board can.
I was
take a look
making
at those.
11th hour changes, so.
So we'll send that out so that you have the information.
So if there is funding recouped through other means, then that would actually be a credit against the project.
Of course.
That's a
yes.
form of a question. And I know we can't talk about that in open session, but that is a possibility. So that's kind of an open issue. And then the other thing that concerns me a little bit is that the Move Ahead Washington that says not funded. Do we have to wait for that Move Ahead Washington money to come in before we complete phase one, since it's allocated to phase one, or do we have flexibility as to what phase it's applied to? I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and spend the wrong money on completing phase one.
So yes, we have to wait for it to come in. We should hear something. The legislature is reviewing that right now, from my understanding. They will finalize that sometime this week and take it to the governor, and he has, I think, 20 days to sign off on it after he gets those bills, but we're pretty confident that we're gonna get the 2.5.
The appropriation has been flagged for this year's transpo
yes,
budget.
Yes.
Okay. It wasn't on my radar, so I hadn't been watching for that. I'm watching for a ferry funding number, but I'm glad you reminded us. And it's 2 years in a row, 2.5 million this year and next year
That's what we're
requested
asking
for
for.
appropriations. Okay.
Originally, we were asking for, I think, 5 million all for phase 2, but we've since split that up and are asking for 2.5 for this, for phase 1 and 2.5 for phase 2.
I've seen it myself too, because I'm watching transportation budget as well. Right. Any other questions? I think what may be appropriate for our May meeting is an executive session with outside counsel to answer questions about some of the other things that have come up. So we'll look to schedule that with the board.
And I'll have the presentation emailed out to all of you guys today.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to go back then to our agenda item. We'll go back to item 6C, which is to approve an HB Hansen Construction Change Order 8. Crystal?
Okay, I have to present for your consideration and approval today. HB Hansen, excuse me, Construction Change Order 8. On May 19th, 2021, the board approved contract number 19-014-F for phase 1 construction of the MOA2 facility with HB Hansen Construction in the amount of $2,885,000. To date, the board has approved change orders 1 through 7 totaling just over 1.2 for this contract. Staff would like to present for your consideration change order 8 dated April 4th, 2023 totaling $1,627,314.06. The majority of change order 8 includes the roof and roof edging that has already been approved by the board. The remaining change order proposals include various issues requiring the corrections listed. Staff, together with construction management firm and the architect, have reviewed and authorized change order 8, with the caveat being that the architect did not sign COP 53. If you guys remember, we went around the contractor and signed that. Staff recommends the board approve the above listed change order for the MOA2 construction contract.
Well, I do want to read through what the remaining things are. A nano wall,
okay.
still concrete, repair of broken curbs, grading at the vestibule, clean out conflict at cast inside wall, delivery fees for steel coil siding and trim, and supervision of the roofing subcontractor. Just make
And
sure.
that's not an all-inclusive list, but it's the big ticket items.
Majority of the items. Okay. Questions from the board on this particular change order?
Oh, does it mean that is there sufficient money in the original budget for the windows? The windows were a big cost item that haven't been paid for yet. Right?
Haven't been paid for yet, but that's included in change order 8.
It is.
One of those things that I've just read.
I recall them being, originally they were $140,000. And we had options to order the windows now. And that was with signing what we signed on January 31st. And with the provision that we may have to pay up to 15% of the cost of the windows, should they not fit when they come, which would be in the neighborhood of $22,000 or so on 140,000. Since then, the change order 8, the numbers came in that windows are 200, I want to say 260,000 in that neighborhood. So they're a lot more. So that upped our 15% to the low 30s, $30,000 variable, only to be charged if they don't fit when they arrive to cut and refit the frames. So that's
Came out last week, I think, to measure for those. So those should be ordered soon.
The cost of the windows is in change order 8.
yes,
It is.
Although
included
it's
in
not a
there.
listed item there.
yes. It's within COP 53, which is 1.2 of the $1.6 million, as I recall.
Almost double what they were estimated to be in January.
What's the lead time for ordering? It was like a 6-month lead time.
It's signed on COP 53. It says 30 weeks lead time for the windows. That's why we said, please order them immediately to save time, considering the fact that each month it costs us over $30,000. I mean, it's essentially, I look at it as $1,500 per day. And that's what I tell the staff. When you're waiting for a response next week, please consider that this costs us $1,500 a day, more or less.
Approximately, and that's actually good information for the board to know. We figure that this project sitting idle is costing us anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 per month. The biggest cost is our 24-hour security. We're also paying for 2 trailers, water service, and a portable bathroom.
I think what's, at least from my personal experience right now, building a project, we're looking at the inflations. That's not just a yearly, it's every month. So for instance, a fritted glass went up $140,000 in 3 months on the costs. So the more that you wait on ordering, we personally are experiencing the most incredible inflation costs for some of these things. We had orders, windows specifically on the Commons project. That change order had to occur. Our costs went up 6 figures because our windows were coming out of Ukraine, and it was just really interesting to see that. So if you're building something right now, you'll experience these like incredible types of inflationary costs. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but we've seen it personally.
I just want to comment. I know certainly for me on the board, there's much angst with approving this one because like Commissioner Janicki said, there's no way to sugarcoat this. There's much pain involved here, but I'm also willing to listen to other board members if they can think of alternatives, because I tried to think of some alternatives.
Or the windows guaranteed not to break. I'm a little serious. Some of the riots and so forth going on in the country. I mean, that's a huge expense if some vandalism up there. I mean, so.
We're in a pretty remote location. I don't anticipate that being an issue, hopefully, but.
One of the issues with the windows was the fact that they're rigid, the storefront windows in the front, but the building has to move so much. And that gasket that was between the windows and the building to allow for that movement, that was a huge discussion as well. That's one of the many requests for information that went from the contractor, HB Hansen, back to the architect.
Go ahead, Steve.
I guess my disappointment is it's one of these things when stuff starts happening, it kind of snowballs.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
where does it stop? How do you get that to stop? And I'm disappointed that we have a estimate for windows that is so out of line 2 months later, from January to March. Honestly, it's like it seems like another. Did we do the right estimate to begin with? It just somehow this thing that the snowball has to slow down and stop. And this is phase 1 of 3. And our overages right now are tremendous. Does not bode well for the future if we don't get this under control somehow, somebody soon.
Mayor Sexton, we echo your angst, and that's why we want to get this project moving as quickly as possible, because the amount of money that it's costing us month over month for this project to sit idle is, I mean, it's cost us already a lot of money just to have nothing happening on this project. So that's why we respectfully request that you approve.
I get that, and I get that, Crystal, but I want to get it right more than
As
fast.
do we.
That's the thing I'm most concerned of, and that's what we haven't seen yet. And in a lot of reasons why, and not on staff, but more on some of the providers we've listed for their services, probably. I'll say that. So again, it's just another gut punch. And I can't support this until I get that presentation, actually have a chance. And I know we're in the spot we're in. And as Matt says, I mean, I don't know what a good alternative is, because there isn't a good alternative to this. It's just, I personally need to have some time to digest the slides that you presented and just so I know exactly.
So I do want to share with you that I feel like the possibility, so the contractor is supposed to start back up on April 24th. And there's already been some concerns. In fact, that's why the windows were delayed in being ordered. Aggie's here. He can attest to that because has spoken to our construction management team. Concerns about not getting paid for the construction. And my fear is that if we don't approve this contract, because change order 8 includes some items that we got kind of head nods before, and they already moved on work and they're expecting to get paid for that. My fear is that if we don't approve this, that they will not start construction back up on April 24th, like the schedule tells us that they're going to do right now.
Questions? Any other discussion?
So, Mayor Joe, remind me, there was a constructability review, engineering review, so that because I guess I got to a little bit higher point of confidence that we are actually going to be able to finish this energy envelope, close it up, make it energy or make it weather tight with the plan as presented with the contractor who's on with HB Hansen. I mean, they've been good about working with us.
Right.
Are you still comfortable with whatever that analysis is, that we have a plan that is executable now?
Something else that may help calm some of the angst is that HB Hansen has assured us that this estimate and the schedule that they provided takes us 98% to the finish line. So we should be expecting little to no change orders from a monetary standpoint for the remainder of this project. And that's something that this team was definitely concerned about too. I want you to know that we're definitely analyzing every invoice that we come across, every change order. We're paying attention to this project, definitely.
And yeah, speaking to the constructability review, I think we talked a little bit about this within the board meeting starting in January, is we had design flaws that caused all these delays. And then the architect came back with this new set, right? And I personally thought I'd rather have a third party review that. So that did occur with OAC coming in and concurring, yes, this is constructible the way it was. So that, I think that was a good decision by the board to allow that to occur, to give us some confidence as much as possible moving forward to completion. So of this phase.
I think that's a good reminder to the board and to the public that we did do a third party review, and that is going to give us the confidence, the 98% confidence factor that we're going to
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, thank you for bringing that up. There was a third party review that did determine that it was constructible.
That's a good lesson for all of our jurisdictions. Like we do that generally, but if you're not looking at doing a third party review, it's probably money well spent to have that done too. Just throwing that out.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the HB Hansen Construction Change Order 8.
Thank you. All right, motion by Commissioner Janicki, a second by Mayor Johnson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, item 6D is the approve a KBA construction management contract number 19-013-F amendment number 5, if I got that right. Crystal. Yeah.
I have to present for your consideration and approval today, KBA Construction Management Contract number 19-013-F Amendment number 5. On February 20th, 2020, Skagit Transit entered into contract number 19-013-F with KBA Inc. for construction management and inspection services for a second Maintenance Operations and Administration Facility, also known as MOA 2. Staff request approval of amendment number 5 to this contract, adding $440,131 to the estimated budget for services and extended contract to date May 31st, 2024. The estimated completion date for phase 1 of the MOA 2 project. I also need to point out that while doing this presentation for the MOA 2 project, that we discovered that we inadvertently went over the not to exceed contract of $573,891 that was originally approved. This is because we originally thought that KECA would only be providing security services at MOA 2 for about 6 to 8 months. And as project delays have occurred, we've had to continue security services, which was never captured with the formal amendment to a contract. So this dollar amount that we're asking for is, and again, we're still in negotiations on this contract. We're getting ready to go into a year, one option or an option 1 year. So this $440,000 that we're asking for takes us through the end of the of phase 1. I've budgeted for 24-hour service of security at MOA 2, and I don't think we're going to need it for the full year. And then this also will pay for the existing security service that we're getting at Skagit Station. And that includes the $100,000 that we went over on the not to exceed.
Just so I'm confused because.
Yeah, I'm confused too.
Because I think I'm hearing a blend of two different, so the KBA construction management contract is the
I'm
440.
sorry, I'm talking about KECA. Sorry.
And then the security one has been blended into that.
Right.
They are two separate.
They are. So we'll talk. So forget everything you just heard and I'll say it again on the next one.
We're going back KBA construction management for the next.
Yeah.
Over.
So
12.
this one, we're actually, they provided a contract for a proposal rather for $440,000. We are in the process of negotiating that contract. We also discovered that contract was expired on December 31st. That's one of the other things that we discovered in doing the investigation for the presentation of this contract. So
I'm just going to recap. So this would be for continuing construction management services with KBA, who has been with us from the beginning. They have proposed $440,000. However, we're negotiating that as a
I'm
lower
trying
price.
to negotiate the number of hours that they are projecting on the project. And so this proposal actually came in before we got the schedule from HB Hansen. We just got that a couple of days ago. So I'm hoping that now that we got the actual schedule from HB Hansen, that they can go through and modify the number of hours that they're projecting to need every month on this project. In addition to that, we're also questioning some of the hourly rates that they're proposing. I looked at the original estimate that came in a couple of years ago for this this construction management team, and their hourly rates have gone up pretty significantly, up to upwards of 30–40% for what they're charging us for their employees. So that's something that we're going to look at as well.
So I think as a board, there's a little bit of a difficulty in approving a contract when it hasn't been fully negotiated. What I see the board could technically do is give you a parameter to go up to 440,000. I also understand there's a complication of that they're operating right now without a current contract,
Right.
which is an issue. So I'm not sure how the board would like to proceed on this particular item. I am comfortable doing an up to, but also I'm going to rely on staff to negotiate the best possible contract there. Discussion, please, from the board.
I don't like the fact that they're in an expired contract. I mean, can we extend the contract date to like June 30th? With some amount of money allocated to get them up to until the details are more refined. I mean, I don't want to go to $440,000 not knowing.
I didn't hear what you said about the 440,000.
I'm uncomfortable going with just a open, up to 440,000 with so much undefined in the space. I mean, this is the company that's the owner's rep functionally on site.
Right.
And who brought some of the issues that were arising to the attention of the the director before, so I do have confidence, but when you're talking about 30 or 40% increase in rates, I mean, that needs to be looked at. So
Thoughts? Yeah.
I don't know what the I don't know what the functional part is because they've concurred. It must have some hours to the project, even to get us to June 30th. They need some kind of budget authority to pay them.
Helps the discussion, but functionally, we've been paying KBA since the contract has expired. Is that correct?
And again, we just discovered that about 2 weeks ago.
30 years of leadership and management, micromanagement is kind of a bad term, not in this case, and that's that, and I appreciate that type of micromanagement that needs to go on with this project. So we're again finding that.
Been paying them the old rates, that's correct.
If it gives you any comfort, when I arrived at Skagit Transit, one of the first things I looked at were contracts and contract management and monitoring our contracts at the county. Our financial system monitors our contracts, each one and the drawdowns to ensure you don't overspend a contract and when contracts expire. Our process is much more manual than that. A lot of everything that we do is much more manual than that. Step back 15 plus 20 years plus. So to remedy this, I asked for a spreadsheet to be built of all contracts, contract number, amendment number, contract and a parent-child relationship between those with all of the parameters and with hyperlinks built in so that you could, from the contract number, pull up the PDF documents because they're stored. I wanted to give you some background information that I knew this was a possibility when I arrived. I asked for an audit of it. Since then, since we just determined that this issue arose, I've created a corrective action plan to put in the file with respects to contracts so that if this gets pulled and looked at in full transparency to the board and to our state auditors, that we've identified the problem. We have put measures into place to remedy the problem and on the short term for both expiration of contract dates and not to exceed amounts so that we can monitor those. And outside of the financial system, because the system we have simply will not do that. And the long-term goal is to replace our system with a more modern system that will allow that blanket purchase order type capability. There's direct purchase orders for purchasing and receiving, and then blankets for contract monitoring and drawdowns. There's much good and improvements to be made, and that is on the list. And I've written that up and as a corrective action plan.
An alternative to taking this action could be to continue what we're doing and then come back with an actual contract with KBA, a contract modification with KBA.
Yeah, we can do that.
But agree with that. I guess I want to make sure from the auditor looking at this that it's like we're ratifying back to January 1st when the contract expired. If we're paying under the old contract terms, and we just need to extend that contract so there's coverage as to authorizing those already made payments, right?
Without that, I mean, I would think that contract language would have once the date. I mean, we've done it a couple times in the city. We've missed a contract and we've kept paying the contractor, and then we go back and modify that contract. But typically there's, it's like going month to month on your lease kind of thing.
Because it's written into the contract.
Because it's written into the contract. So I don't, without seeing that contract. That's why my suggestion is kind of continue what we're doing until we get an actual.
A suggestion might be that the board approves a month to month, not to exceed that date, and we extend the parameters of the contract to extend it.
The board never approved going past the contract anyway, so that's the rub.
We negotiate with these folks. It's a percentage of future change orders, you save us from paying.
Might be on the losing end of that one.
I think it's also a struggle for me to think that we've hired someone to keep track of the details of a project, yet they've allowed a contract to expire with their client. I have a hard time getting past that personally.
Mayor Boudreau, I want you to know that that has also been part of the internal discussions, and when we go back out for phase 2 and 3, that's definitely something that we're going to take into consideration.
So what go ahead, Ron.
I like Mayor Madro's comment here, up to the 440,000 extended out to 2024. And let the negotiation, we at the county, we always do up to, and we have a rate and so forth at some point. And I just think that would solve some of those problems with the auditor and get this done. I mean,
Looking for what the board is comfortable
well, maybe-
doing, if anything, so.
I agree with Commissioner Weason. I'd like to make a motion to approve up to 440,000.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right, there's a motion on the floor and by Commissioner Browning and a second by Commissioner Weason. Any other discussion?
Understand that's to modify this to not to exceed 440,000 or.
I think it would, be fair to be clear that this is as written in the memo, that this would be to enter into a contract with KBA for construction management inspection services. Not to exceed 440,000.
Modify that, like, just to be clear, not to enter into, but to extend the existing contract. I don't want any gaps in contractual time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
There'd be an amendment.
Amendment to the contract.
Yeah.
Amendment, yeah. Okay, so to kind of restating, let's make sure that I heard Commissioner Browning correctly. Right, so it's that we would authorize Skagit Transit to enter into an amendment number 5 to the contract 19-013-F with KBA for construction management inspection services. Not to exceed $440,131. Is that fair? Okay. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Mayor Boudreau, we got it. That was for what time frame?
Between now and the end of, I guess of, as stated, so
Okay,
May
thank you.
31st of 2024. Okay. Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Sorry. Can we do voice? Because I couldn't tell who was. Mayor Johnson? Commissioner Browning?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
And I, okay, fine, thank you. All right. This is just way too like detailed of a meeting that I'm more used to. Okay. Item 6E. Approve the Kayaka Security Guard Services contract. This is contract number 20-001-F, and this is amendment. Go back to Crystal on this one.
This is literally where I wrote all of my notes on the wrong page. So we'll start over here.
Try it again.
Okay, I present for your consideration and approval the Kayaka Security Guard Service Contract 20-001-F Amendment. The Skagit Transit Board of Directors awarded Kayaka Group Inc. Security Guard Services Contract number 20-001-F on April 15th, 2020. Due to extensive delays in the construction of phase 1 in the project, our security budget allotment of $573,891 over a 5-year period has been exceeded. At this time, Transit requests permission to amend contract 20-001-F with Kayaka Group Inc. to increase the not to exceed amount by $300,000. This amount includes security services at both MOA and Skagit Transit. And I want to make a little note that there was paragraph 2 on here that was an incorrect statement. So that will be corrected and redistributed out. That was actually not approved by the board. Staff recommends the board approve security guard services contract 20-001-F amendment to increase the security contract by $300,000 for up to 6 months on a month-to-month And so this is the one where I discovered, our team discovered that we went approximately $100,000 over. So this $300,000 includes 6 month of 24-hour security service at MOA2 and existing service at Skagit Station. And then I also want to note that we've been experiencing some performance issues with KECA. The contract does expire at the end of this month, so we're asking to do a month to month on that. And I've asked my my team to go back out for a request for proposal to hopefully bring in another security company.
Okay, questions for Crystal on this particular item? I do have one. Can you explain a little bit how KECA, if I'm saying that right, how does that interface with our actual FTEs that are hired for security?
It's a contract service, so it's not FTE. They're not ours at all. It's a contract. I'm not understanding.
Right, but we have, what, 2 or 3 staff members that are security.
Right.
They're hired for that. So how do it not overlap, I guess, with a contractor that we hire?
There is some overlap, in the purpose for the security manager and supervisors is to oversee the contract. However, KECA, to be quite honest, has been very, they have not been very reliable. And so our staff has actually been providing security service in their absence, both at MOA2 and Skagit Station.
Something on the list to assess in
Yeah.
going into the future.
I feel like
Thank you.
everything at one time.
All right, questions for the board on this?
Just making sure the 100,000 of the 300,000 is to pay stuff that we've already done, and then 200,000 is a month to month. We're approving a month to month, and obviously we want to look at other options for security contractors.
Correct.
Okay. What is the board's pleasure on this particular item? Thank you. Motion by Mayor Johnson, second by Commissioner Janicki. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 7 is our information items. Item A is a fleet-wide coach Wi-Fi upgrade project update. Chris Chidley.
Yes,
Thank you.
good afternoon. At the March 2023 Board of Directors meeting, staff reported the Wi-Fi upgrade project was ready for award and recommended the board approve the purchase of the 65 Wi-Fi units from Green Ramp Group LLC in the amount of, we have a typo here, it was for $229,500, not $299,000, which is well under the not to exceed that we had from last year. The project was entirely funded with the 2021 to 2023 WashDOT Transit Support Grant Funds. When preparing the purchase of the units, the commitment to receive all the products before the grant funds expired fell short. To correct this, staff needs to wait for the new 2023 to 2025 grant funding period. This requires us to request new quotes from the vendors who participated in the last solicitation as the quotes expire before July of 2023. In an effort to maintain the grant funds, staff will delay this project and transfer the funds to an open operating grant. The transit support grant funds are flexible and are available for operating or capital projects. Staff has contacted WashDOT and requested that the project funds be transferred to an existing operating grant within the same grant period or program. WashDOT has approved the transfer. Skagit Transit will receive the 2023 to 2025 transit support grant funds on July 1st of 2023 and will program the Wi-Fi project to those funds, giving the project more time to complete. Staff recommends to the board today to approve the Wi-Fi project to be reprogrammed to the 2023 through 2025 grant biennium.
Right, and get ready for the real amount to be $299,000 with inflation. Sorry, question.
Are there any kind of buffers on that system? We're gonna have a lot of high school kids, middle school kids riding buses using their computers they got from their school. And I'd like to think that there's at least some control, or can we monitor what can or cannot be
Yes, in the plan, I have a roadmap that goes out to the end of 2024. So once we get all these units installed in January of 2024, or in January of 2024, we will be kind of working towards that solution for guest Wi-Fi. We're going to have client portal access, so we are capping how much bandwidth they can use. And we're also going to put in basic content filtering so they can't go to inappropriate sites. But before we before we move forward with that guest Wi-Fi access, we need to come to the board for another approval, because it will be an extra cost, because we are going to hopefully go to another network that will give us higher priority. And when we do that, we have to have 2 separate cell phone connections on each coach, one for guest Wi-Fi and one for only internal access. So at that time, when we're closer, that's when we would come back to the board. So this is merely for all of the infrastructure, the physicality of it to be in place and ready to do that.
Thank you, Chris. That's great. Thank you.
Other questions for Chris on this? Something that we just learned: when you're using federal funds, there's a requirement to not use specific equipment built by specific manufacturers. So I'm assuming that Chris knows all about that. Excellent. Something we learned the day. So, all right. So do you actually want board action for basically delaying this? Is that what you're asking for today?
Yes, we're asking that we're allowed to pause that and apply it to the next grant cycle. It's kind of late now to order. We won't receive all the product in time. We'll end up with out-of-pocket costs. So it's informational formality to get your approval.
Okay. There's someone who would like to make that motion that we program this, delay this project and program it in 2024.
I moved to reprogram the Wi-Fi project until 2023, 2025 grant biennium.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Weason, second by Mayor Sexton. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Item 7B is a Community Advisory Committee report. I think Judy is on the line. Go ahead, Judy, with your report, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this for you all. It was a shorter meeting. It was really kind of surprising. There were a lot of positive things that went on. It was basically reporting and confirmation. We had the May's upcoming service changes report, and we're excited that some areas that have never been served before, such as in like the Northwest area in Cedar Woolley, there's a little bit of area that's never been served that's going to receive service, which is good. And then we went over the other service changes that had been brought to our attention before. Then we extended our welcome to our new CEO, Crystal Stidham, and also to new member BJ Carroll for their first official meeting, their presence at the CAC meeting in their capacities. Staff reports and strategic plan reports were reviewed, plus any further committee recommendations for bus route frequency improvements were confirmed. In other words, on the bus frequency improvements, in the past couple of months, members have been asked to submit recommendation for any kind of route improvements to be taken to the strategic plan, and we had been giving these. So we just used this last meeting to confirm what had already been recommended. So then our next meeting is May the 9th, and you all are welcome to come join us virtually or in person at Skagit Station. Respectfully submitted, Judy Jones, CAC Chair.
Thank you so much, Judy. Any questions for Judy? Move on. All right, appreciate it. All right, moving on to is item 7C. This is the March ridership report, and hope that you saw in your packet that there's kind of a new format giving us some information there. So I don't know if either Crystal or Brad wanted to comment on that.
Yes, this is our first month with this new format, and we look forward to the board members taking a look at it. If you have any statistics or metrics that you would specifically like to see, we would be happy to incorporate them. We are looking at this ourselves and trying to figure out some additional things that we can add in, but we need to make sure that we can do it in a sustainable manner. So I know one of the things we're looking at obtaining is the number of volume of calls to customer service each month. So to show that kind of business. So anyways, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And I did want to point out for the board, one interesting fact, under our selected statistics, youth ridership was just under 3,700, which puts youth at 10% of our overall ridership in the month of March. So that has been a nice growth area. That's been a nice change for us.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it. All right. Any other questions for Brad on that? Okay. We already discussed item 7D, which is our overall of MOA2. So we've completed our agenda items. And with that, we will be adjourned at 12:06.